Thank you. Good morning. And indeed, it's 7 o'clock and greetings from Tallinn, Estonia. So I will share my screen if it's allowed technically. And
should be,
yeah. I'm very used to Zoom through the whole year, but it's always
new somehow.
yes,
Every
exactly.
time you have to do something important, I find that it changes somehow.
Yeah, the
Do you
thing
have,
is, yeah.
yeah.
I can share just the file. So I have, when I jump to another window, then I have to reshare. For some reason, I see only the file I have
Okay.
now shared with you, not my screen.
Yeah, well, we see a file here.
Great. Yes. So I have not much time, and let me do a short presentation. More than a year ago, I started off in proposing to bind together the micro-moment idea by Ron Belghetto, which was expanded into the pedagogical creative improvisation by a good colleague of mine, Anna Homan from Sweden. And I was very amazed I got to this concept through Anna in a conference. Then I discovered that Bill Bruford had quoted myself from an article which was a commentary to you, Vlad, in Culture and Psychology, and he used a principle I already had forgotten, but he referred to the interfere principle I had then laid out in this article, and he built a whole model out of it, the function compositional continuum. And then I discovered serendipity through Wendy. So these were the starting points. And for this today's talk, I even thought I would get to an empirical study thing, but as things change, I haven't yet done this kind of empirical study I promised. So, but I still will today show something which is somehow empirical. So, and then I went further, and I was invited to Wendy's book, which is also a great honor to me. So it drove me, again, derailed me in a positive sense to something I thought I must have been driven anyway. So for me, nothing is by chance. Everything comes, even if it seems to be disruptive or it seems to be surprisingly, for me, in the end, nothing is surprising. Everything which goes through my mind, it had to be there, and it was, maybe I have really a prepared mind, or so this is the reason also I'm very happy to be in the Serendipity Society, because this opened such possibilities I have always dreamed about. Now they are in reality, and I am with them in reality, with you in reality. So I promised to do a little model, and it is still a work in progress. So what I show here is not ready yet. It's also a kind of conglomerate of ideas and concepts I try to bind together in my head. And this model here is still 2D, but I imagine it to be mobile, or not mobile, to be flexible, or to be, we can bend this sheet of paper in two different ways. One possibility is on the horizontal axis, as you here see, and then we maybe start from serendipity, go through this model, arrive at pedagogical creative improvisation, and then we bind together the edges. upper and the lower edge, and we are back with serendipity. And the other angle is the vertical angle, where we bind this, we fold this paper the other way around, and then we can bring together the external and the internal. The external and internal, I am very happy to refer to Ross and Valet Tourangeau, where I found this, and also with the article with my colleague Jörg Sick, we have dealt with something we have called an interior reality of the performer. And so if you imagine this sheet of paper, you take it and you fold it around, and then we can bring together the exterior and internal, external and internal aspects I have brought here. So these are the marks I have tried to visualize here, that it's not a static, but it's a dynamic model. What's in the center for me, of course, is being in the moment. Then these micro moments, which I always see and try to use in my pedagogical work at Tallinn University. And then I recently discovered this Brinkmann article about for instance, negative experience that just needs to be transformed to become not negative anymore. And then the micro serendipity approach by Randy and Valet Tourangeau. So what I then thought, if the micro serendipity is the interaction of external accidents and the internal psychometric properties, then I immediately started to think, while having in mind our joint article with Jörg Sick, that we write there also about some kind of, we didn't use this term, but internal accident, something that happens just in the mind of the improviser or the performer, and which must not get out even. Nobody will see it. And just yesterday, I called it, in my preparation for today, I just called it internal accidents. It's not a ready term also, but it was triggered by this micro serendipity article. So what could I then speak about further is then, if we think of internal and external, then is it all? Maybe something external comes before the internal process, and after the external process, something internal follows, etc., etc. So for me, it's an open chain of internal, external, and external as expression and internal as genesis. I think this can be a chain of things that I wouldn't dare to exactly say what was first. So what I still mention here from this is what we have written about with my colleague, is possible alternative and future scenarios and the potential self. The latter one is, we want to go even further into it later. And yes, the interior reality, if we speak of an improviser or even a performance artist or a composer, then something happens in the performer and in the musician and in the artist, the artist is constantly communicating with oneself first of all, and then maybe with the external world around. So, and in pedagogy, there's also a lot of things we don't see as teachers, which may go on in the heads of our students. To get to this is very complicated. So as I, in the early morning today, also commented, I really like to ask challenging questions to my students, which is a challenge, of course, for them, but also for me. And I like to ask such questions that don't go straight. And I'm sure I get a look into their heads, especially if they make kind of if they make mistakes or so. Then I get the chance to discuss this, why they did mistakes, or why it happened that they thought this way and not the other way around, etc., etc. So I use my new known intriguing method I have developed even earlier, but here we have applied it with my colleague Marit Muslik-Tam on piano teaching. So I could even talk about tension and suspense, which is very important in this context, which comes mostly from the external world and through the right-wrong framework. And in free music improvisation, we claim with Jacques Sick that we must abandon this right-wrong framework. Otherwise, we leave the field of free improvisation. So, and all these things can be taken also to pedagogy. Looking at the time, I think I should come to an end, isn't it? I have here some
just a couple more minutes. That's great.
Yes, yeah. I have here some propositions. One extreme is the traditional approach that everything is learned by textbooks, examination must be done by heart. It's a kind of inauthentic, schematic learning with little or no impact on long-term memory. No external influence is allowed if you do an examination or so. And the right-wrong framework is the most important. And the other is the kind of advanced approach, or a kind of extreme approach that everything is gained from life, and in digital times from the World Wide Web, of course, as well. No artificial examination situation, no by heart learning or spitting out of facts, authentic schematic learning. It is still kind of schematic learning, because what you need in life, you learn anyway. You need no textbook, or you need nobody to tell you. And this has an impact on long-term memory. And in a very extreme view, we abandon the right-wrong framework, because if it's not functional, not working, then I will throw it away. But if it is functional, then I use it. And if I become compositional, then I go even further and will shape what happens. So this is, and we come here also to the interior reality, possible alternative and future scenarios, and the potential self. So this is what is kind of preliminary implication for today. And I hope it has raised questions, or would be I would be happy about feedback. Let me just show what I wanted to show you as examples. Number one, I have to reshare. So I think I am here, right? And with first year students, we had a sound walk, and after that we expected them to feedback the sound walk with an essay or something like that. And we explicitly said with my colleague, don't use kind of, don't use a sound expression itself. So somebody didn't accept this and say still reflected with a sound back. It was okay for us, and somebody did this kind of textual thing, what I think everybody can understand here. It's rather onomatopoetic. And I looked at it, I liked it, and I said, okay, nice. We see here some gaps. And then the student said to me, please mark this. This is in Google Drive. Please mark this. And look what happened. She had hidden, here is more hidden information behind it. So it's this was kind of, I even didn't do as a kind of accident. By accident, I could have done like this and then discovered it. But in this teaching situation, I didn't do this, and the student had to tell it to me. Later, I used it in a project, and I used it deliberately with my students. Then in another course, video and performance art, I asked my students to figure out what is serendipity and ask questions about. And here we have some kind of question: can love be a serendipity? And the 8 groups answered then to it. We have no time to go into it. Other questions, so I have 8 questions here and a bunch of very interesting answers. What is serendipity for them? These were also international students, Erasmus students, not only Estonian students. And the last example I want to show is a musical score, which is realized like this.
Внимание, внимание, внимание! Уважаемые товарищи, городской совет народных депутатов сообщает.
Wow, that with the sun rising and that coming up, Gerhard, that was amazing, because I did feel I've been up all night, right? I've had quite a lot of coffee, and the sun came up, and that music, that was fantastic. Thank you so much for that talk. That was really, really.
Yes, I think I lost. Wendy, your microphone is closed.
Sorry, we're going to move on just because we're keeping to time.
Yes.
Because if we pick up 5 minutes here, by the time we steamroll on to the end, we will be stuck. But if anyone has any questions, I'm sure that you will answer them in the chat.